Hey guys, this is my leak. This is the My Tie You podcast. And I am here today with the podcast that you guys have been beating me up for probably the last, 4 or 5 months. I am here today with Brandi Hunter. She was my realtor for the purchase of my last home. She's based in Atlanta. She is a graduate of the University of Georgia. She is a member of the Atlanta Board of Realtors Distinguished Multi-Million Dollar Club. Her designations include Accredited Buyer's Representative and the prestigious Certified Luxury Home Marketing Specialist, which are the benchmarks for excellence in buyer's representation in luxury homes. She is in the top 5% of production for agents in the highly successful Keller Williams Buckhead office. She has created a unique niche by becoming the go-to realtor for NFL and NBA athletes, distinguished professionals, and for Atlanta's high-profile entertainers and reality TV stars. Brandi is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and is an active member of nonprofit organizations Project Karma and Beyond the Game. As a widow, these organizations are dear to her heart as they provide aid and support to widows, orphans, and those families who are living with loss. Her most proud accomplishment is that of her 3 sons, Jaden, Chase, and Dylan, who are very active and talented student athletes. Brandi, welcome.
Wow. Thank you, Malik. It's a pleasure to be here. It is a pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here.
Yes. So I am super excited to have you on today because you have talking to a real estate agent has been sort of the hot topic for my podcast. And so I have a ton of listener questions for this podcast. But before we get started, I remember when I met you at a panel with Candy, and I think I briefly mentioned to you, like, you know what, I think I'm going to buy a home. Before I knew it, you were at my house. And then before I knew it, I owned a home. So
right. I have to say this because the process of working with you was it was quick because you're just such a
decisive.
You're just such a decisive and to the point type of person. Like that's your personality. So it was a really easy process, but it was great all the while.
Okay, thank you. I know I just hosted a retreat over the weekend and people were saying Queen Clarity in Queen Direct. Like I'm pretty keen on what I wanted, even in the house that I bought. I remember you and I were scheduled to go out and look for homes. And I think I called you like, Brandi, I already found my house.
I know. Great.
And my accountant's like, no, you didn't. Don't buy the first house that you see. But I was like, no, this is my house. And we went and we looked at houses, but I was like, I told you, right. I found my house. So are there some like basics? Do you want to just give the listeners some like just real estate basics? And you and I talked about this over lunch about a month ago that yes, you do sort of like these $1 million homes, but you also work with people who may be buying, $200,000 homes or just smaller homes. So that's not all that you do.
No, that's certainly not all that I do. I work with first-time home buyers. I work with investors. Okay. So I cover the gamut. Now that's a unique little niche that I've created, but I certainly work with more than just luxury home buyers and athletes. I work with your everyday hardworking entrepreneur. I work with them all. But just to answer that question, as far as what are some things to know about the process, I think first and foremost, everyone should make sure that they hire the right professional. I think that's more important than anything. Getting with a realtor that you trust, one that you've got recommendations from, you know how they operate, that they respond to you in a timely fashion, that they provide you the information that you need. So that's first and foremost, because if you don't have the right professional, it can certainly make that process not a great one. So I think that's first. You make sure you interview agents and get the right person on your team that's going to represent you fairly and make sure that you get everything that you deserve throughout the process. So that's important. But then I think once you have that, you also want to make sure there are some things that you prepare yourself for. And a lot of the questions that they've sent in really address that, knowing, being familiar with the pre-qualification process and what that looks like, knowing what you'll need to prepare for in terms of documentation and finances, how much you'll need to put down and how much you'll need to have saved. That's certainly something you want to be familiar with. Identifying the location, you have to determine. Yeah. What's most important to you. So if it's school, if where you purchase is being driven by schools. My children will be
Okay.
attending this elementary or want to be in this school district. So is it location driven, or is it convenience driven? Like where you want to be, you want to live closer to where you work, make sure your commute is no more than 15 to 20 minutes from where you work. Um, so
Okay.
really just kind of identifying what is most important to you, which will drive where you purchase. And then ultimately the price point, you have to figure out what your budget is. So yeah,
Right.
discovering what's comfortable for you on a monthly basis. You have to factor in a lot of expenses, not just your mortgage payment, but your taxes and insurance, and then all of your monthly utilities. So, if there's a homeowners association, all
Oh
those
yeah.
prices you have to factor in, and those things you do need to know beforehand before you just dive in.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I think sometimes we just look at, the mortgage calculator and you're like, "Oh my god, that's cheaper than my rent," or that's just a little bit
Right.
more than my rent. But I would say that like some of the challenges that I had in buying my home, I could afford it, but it was just this thing of like when I bought it, I realized that I didn't really have the lifestyle to fit my
Right.
home yet,
Right.
So I remember when I moved in and all my furniture looked like Barbie furniture. It was just so
Right.
small. It was tiny. So I ended up having to spend quite a bit of money kind of filling it up so it looked like somebody lived
Right.
here.
Yeah.
And then I remember sort of within the first 6 months, I don't even know if you know this, but I ended up getting carpenter bees on my patio.
Mm.
So they were eating through the patio. So I had to call someone out for that and I had to pay for
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And then I got new washers and dryers. And when they delivered the washing machine, they didn't hook it up right. And water went through the washing machines on the third floor, down to the second floor, put the lights out, down through the garage on the first floor, put the lights out. And it's just like, oh, like this is now my
Oh,
problem.
absolutely. And that is something you are absolutely right, my league. That is something that
Yeah.
you don't factor into because you go from renting
Hmm.
where your landlord took care of all those expenses to now being a homeowner where you are responsible for any mishaps that happen in your house that's not, covered by an insurance claim. So maintenance is
Yes.
definitely something that you have to factor in, and think about. Of course, when when you decide to purchase, the age of the home. If you're buying an
Okay.
older home, you have to think about, okay, well, my roof may need to be replaced in 5 years.
Oh
My
yeah.
heating unit and cooling unit may need to be replaced, or all of my appliances. So those are all things you have to factor in and consider when purchasing a home.
Right. So, a question that just kind of seems very vague, but maybe there's an answer to this is when do I know I'm ready financially to buy?
So I think that that's a great question. And first of all, you have to
Mhm.
determine, one, if you're ready to take on some of even the responsibilities that we just discussed. And then
Right.
two, once you determine what your budget is, you have to consider that you'll need to prepare to at least have at least between 3 to 5% for a down payment, for the purchase of
Okay.
that home. There are some phenomenal, first-time homebuyer programs out there which can help you with your down payment. But sometimes there are restrictions, in which you have to qualify for those programs, and then even sometimes those
Okay.
programs are location driven. So where that you have to live in this area, like a transitional area, in order to
Okay.
qualify for those programs. So if you don't fit in either of those categories, then you'll just have to pay for your down payment yourself or get a gift from a family member. But that is something that you have to think about, that 3 to 5% down payment that you'll have to come up with, in order to purchase.
Got it. I like that. What effect does your credit score have on your mortgage?
So it's obtaining a mortgage is totally credit driven. So now the guidelines have
Yeah.
loosened. So it used to be at a point where you had to have a really high credit score, but now they've loosened where
Hmm.
you can get a mortgage with even as low as a 580 credit score.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Now
And that's
that
good to know.
Oh, that's good. That is good to know. A lot of people think it's so far fetched, but no, it's really not. There are a lot of different programs. However, that 580 credit score program will require you to put down a significantly higher down payment. So we're looking at anywhere between 10
Right.
to 20%. But if you can work on your credit and build it up to at least a 680, and even Some programs will do a 620. FHA will get you, if you have a 620 credit score, then you can qualify for a 3.5% down payment program.
Okay. Yeah. My credit was not great when I bought my house, but I had the cash to do a down payment. And now it's so crazy after buying my house, like my credit score is through the roof. You know, it's just like, now I'm like, okay, once I buy this next time around, it'll be a lot easier.
Absolutely. Yep. So you can get in the door and even consider, if your score isn't where you need it to be right now, after 12 months, you can even look at refinancing to get that rate. If you're, because once you obtain a mortgage and you pay your mortgage on time, your score is going to go up.
Right.
So you can even look into refinancing and getting a better interest rate once you're in the house at least 12 months.
Yep, that's what I've been trying to do with my bank, but just trying to make sure it stayed at a steady, like a steady score. So I think I'm good with that. Now, you talked about, I don't know if you know any specifically, but people wanted to know about resources to assist with down payments. Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there are a few different programs out there, and different lenders have different programs. I normally, once I consult with my client and find out what their goals are and what their needs are, I refer my client based on what their needs are. So if you're looking to purchase in a certain area within Metro Atlanta, then there's a program for you. There's a program that we refer to as the Affordable Home Mortgage Program. And that's 100% financing program.
Wow.
Yeah, 100% financing. So that 3.5% you will keep in your pocket. However, it's location driven. So it's that program is geared to help gentrify certain areas. So you have to be willing to live in an area that's transitioning. It's a great program, but it's certainly I won't say somewhat of a compromise, but it is.
It's taking it right. It's limiting your choices. Exactly. So it's like, hey, you don't want to put any money down. We can help you with that, but this is the areas that you have to live in.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a program. Okay. There's another program that's called Georgia Dream. Georgia Dream, but you have limitations on that as well. Your purchase price can't be over $250,000. But that program will allow you to purchase within Metro Atlanta. So really kind of based on what the purchasers' needs are, there are different programs. Invest Atlanta is another one of them. So, but that's just a grant. So that wouldn't cover your entire down payment. Invest Atlanta is a grant, which is like $5,000, which will help go towards your down payment. But yeah, so there are some different options out there for different, options. So you do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that I don't know, but I guess there is like a sort of limit of how much of your income should be allocated towards your mortgage. A girl says she read something that said your rent or mortgage shouldn't be more than 30% of your income. What are your thoughts on that?
No, she's accurate.
Is that completely accurate?
Yes, it's completely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The number is right around 31%. So, so they don't want your mortgage payment to be more than 30% of what your overall income is. And in order, and what they want your income or your debt to income ratio to be within 45%. So that's factoring in your, everything else that's on your credit. So if you have a car loan, if you have student loans, if you have credit card payments, so they factor all of that in when they look at your profile, and they don't want that to be over 45%. All of it.
Okay. This is good to know. So there was a question about being self-employed. And is it, if someone, and you've worked with a lot of like people who are entrepreneurs, how hard is it to qualify for a home loan versus someone who has something that appears like more stable, working a 9-to-5 on paper?
And that's a great question, because I'm also self-employed, and we know, yes, as self-employed individuals, we tend to have a few more write-offs than your average person. So, but here's what you have to be conscious of. If you've decided, okay, 2018, I am going to purchase a home, you cannot write off everything. You can't.
Okay.
Because that lender is going to look at your tax returns, your last 2 years tax returns, and they'll qualify you based on what you filed in your taxes. So If you as an entrepreneur, you earned $100,000 in income, but your taxes only show $30,000 worth of income, then that's what you can qualify for. So you definitely, if you are seriously considering looking to purchase, you want to, you want to be in communication with your CPA
Okay.
as well as your loan officer, so they can advise you. If you want to qualify for a $200,000 house, this is what you'll need to reflect on your income taxes, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. So I get that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like, hey, I work for myself. I'm going to write off everything under the sun and then just
Right.
report this small income. I want to buy a house. So you're
Right.
saying be mindful of that and watch for that.
Yeah. Yep. And the rule of thumb with that is that normally, you can qualify for up to 3 times the amount that file on your income taxes. So if you on your income taxes, you file $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
the rule of thumb is that you normally can qualify for $150,000 house.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's if you don't have a significant amount of debt. Now, if you make $50,000, but you have a ton of credit card debt and a ton of student loan debt and all this other debt, that's going to, of course, change what you can qualify for.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you and I talked about this, and I feel like a lot of people are interested in this. Like, it's all about Airbnb right now. So
Right.
it's all about Airbnb and investment properties. So if I already own a home, what's the process? What are some things to consider when getting an investment property, or if you want to try to do Airbnb?
That's a great question, and that's certainly a hot topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb is a great option in terms of looking to purchase a home to either rent out if you didn't choose to stick a renter in there, but if you just want to Airbnb it, that's a great alternative.
Okay.
Now, what you'll need to keep in mind is that if you currently own a property, from a lending standpoint, in order to get financing for an investment property, you'll have to be able to put down 20% on that property. So,
Okay.
so most lenders will require a 20% down payment on an investment property.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, and I guess that's a great lending question. And
Okay. Yeah, you were saying that.
yeah, because of course I'm the expert, but there are some things that the lender will absolutely know beyond even what I know. So
Right.
I said, Molly, that might be a second podcast.
A second podcast. Yeah.
But from what I can just, from what I think,
Okay.
they want to be able to show that, okay, because to have a second property on your mortgage,
Yeah.
you investing that amount in there, you're committed to that.
Right.
So it's certainly you have some skin in the game by being able to invest that amount as a down payment. Now there's some other financing options, hard money loans. Of course, you'll have a higher interest rate. But based on your credit profile, if they look at your profile and see that you're a good candidate for that, sometimes you may be able to put down as little as 10%.
Okay.
But your interest rates are normally higher on a hard money loan. So there's certainly there are a lot of different financing options. You have to really sit down and figure out what's best for you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a question that I'm just going to throw at you because my accountant was talking to me about this. So I bought a brand new home, which I like it because nobody has been in it besides me. But my accountant was saying that sometimes it's better to buy a house that is a little bit older so that the true value of the home, so that the true value of the home. So it's like my house just had a price on it. It's like, this is how much it cost. But how do we truly know the value of it over time?
Well, and that's a great question too, because if you're looking at homes that are in a neighborhood which is stable, and that home has existed for 10 years or 15 years or however, the key to knowing the value is one, like I said, you're having a professional that can look at that data and let you know what that market looked like last year this time, what it looks like 6 months before. So you have a good idea of what the fair market value is, and if it's sustainable.
Okay.
Now with new construction, if it's a new development, that's brand new, then you don't really have that. You have to sort of base it on what's happening in that area, in that overall area. And if that area is trending,
Mm-hmm.
if you see values are rising in that area. So that's something that you have to keep in mind too.
Right.
Because your home is an investment, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's an investment, whether it be short term or whether it's long term, either way, it's an investment for you.
Right. But I've been hearing that like back in the day, people would buy homes and then sell them for like 4 or 5 times what they bought them for.
Right.
And now I'm just hearing that that's kind of not the case. And if you're buying a home, the chances of you making a ton of money off of it just isn't the same. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? There are a lot of things that drive that, and location is definitely important in terms of finding the right investment.
Okay.
Also, the length of time that you plan to be there.
Mhm.
I've had some clients that bought, and keep in mind, we're in a thriving market.
Okay.
2018, our market, 16, 17, 18, our market is recovering and it's rebounded substantially. So where you see people are selling and making tremendous profits, but there
Mhm.
was a time when that didn't happen. Like back in 2009 was one of the worst periods of our, in recent years of our market, when
Mhm.
the market crashed and everyone's homes everyone was foreclosing on their homes, and
Yeah.
the market was saturated with foreclosures. Over 40% of our inventory were all foreclosures. But now the market has recovered and only 2% of our entire inventory is foreclosures. So we're just in a different market right now. But the thing that we don't have is a crystal ball to be able to say,
Right.
we don't know what's going to happen, 12 months or 18 months from now. All we can kind of base that on is what's trending now. And based on statistics that we have watched over the last 12 months or 18 months or 2 years, this is what the market is doing. But I can say that people who have purchased between like 2010, 11, 12,
Mhm.
or even I would say more so 2012, 13, 14, and are
Okay.
selling now, they are seeing a substantial just gain from
Okay.
how this market has recovered. They bought when it was low, and
Okay.
now the prices are recovering, and they're benefiting, they're profiting from that.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that. I moved into a new community and I feel like all the houses, the new realtor here is killing it. All the new houses are under contract.
Right.
Like they're not even built yet. She's just killing. So I'm like, yes, so that I can move.
Yes. So that's a good thing for you, Molly.
Yes, it is. I'm ready to go. But I have some more questions. But another one, Brandi, is that fees. I know realtors have fees. How do realtor fees work? Like, am I paying you up front? How do you get paid?
That's a good question. And
Mm-hmm.
so it works two ways. On the buying side, so if you are a
Mm-hmm.
buyer and I'm representing you as a buyer, the buyer is not responsible for a commission. So it is
Okay.
the seller that pays that buyer's agent throughout that process. So
Okay.
as a buyer, there are no fees that you're really responsible for outside of just what your investment is in the home, and inspections and everything that comes along with that. So the
Okay.
seller pays the buyer's commission. Now, on the other side, if you are a seller, you are responsible to pay a commission. And a standard commission in our market is 6%. So that's 3% to the buying agent and 3% to the selling agent. So the buyer kind of, they don't really have any, unless that agent charges a retainer fee. Some agents you will
Okay.
find will charge a retainer fee in order to,
Get started, or
exactly. Um,
and what's the kind of what kind of fee could that look like? Just so people trying to keep people from getting duped out here. So if someone says, "Hey, okay, I need a retainer fee from you," what's the range typically on that?
Well, the range can vary. The range can vary based on the price point that the person
Okay.
is looking in.
Okay.
However, I haven't seen it be any higher than $1,000 to
Okay.
$1,500. Now, and then what is the expectation is that you'll get that back. Once you close. So
Okay.
it's just to retain the services, but typically when you close, you get that back. Now, it is different if you are renting. Now, a
Okay.
lot of times agents who work specifically with renters, they may charge a fee because on the renting side, agents don't really get much compensation. So,
Okay.
for the investment of time, a lot of agents will charge a fee just to in order for you to contract me to work with you, because it's an investment of my time. I have to charge you for that because we don't really get compensated that much for rental services.
Got it. So people can reach out to a real estate agent if they want to rent a home.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Okay. Another question is we have from a reader is, how much do student loans affect buying a home? She says she went to art school. She has $80,000 in loans. Should she pay them off or pay them down before buying a home? What are your thoughts?
That's a good question. And most people are going to have student loans. So
Right.
the way that a lender will look at that is that it really depends on the type of loan you're looking to obtain. If it's an FHA loan, now FHA, just so I can kind of explain what the difference is, an FHA loan is a loan. It's a government-backed loan, so it's the most it's a great loan because it has lower interest rates and the credit requirements aren't as strict as a conventional loan. So that FHA loan, you can go up to, because they actually change these limits quite often. But I believe right now it's $356,000 is the loan limit for an FHA loan. So for an FHA loan, so let's just say that she has $80,000 in student loans, they're going to require. They're going to look at 1%. They're going to want 1% of that balance. So let's just say she has $80,000 in student loans. They're going to factor in that in her debt to income ratio. So about $800 a month. So whatever, if it's FHA that she's looking at, she has 1% of the balance that they're going to factor in into her debt to income. Now, if it's a conventional loan, what they do is whatever. So let's just say her student loan was $80,000, but her payment on that loan was only $300 a month, and so that could vary based on whatever type of arrangement she has with that creditor. But for a conventional loan, they base it on what's on your credit. So if that loan, if your monthly payment for that student loan is only $300 a month, then that's what they'll factor in on a conventional loan. But it's different with FHA.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So what are some things that people can do to be an attractive buyer? I think in everything that I do, I want to appear polished, and I want for whoever's selling it to believe in me. So what are some things? And I don't even know if it's, and you can be honest and tell me, is it a way that you dress? Is it, does that matter? What can you do to be an attractive buyer out here?
So the one thing that you can do is to be prepared. And that is what's paramount throughout this situation. You have to be prepared. You can't go. A lot of people think, oh, I just want to go out and look at houses. No,
that's me.
That is not how the process works. And if you want to do that, that's fine. You can just don't expect a professional to take you out. You can go to open. They have open houses every weekend, so feel free to go. To go look at houses, go tour open houses. But a professional will require you to be prepared, which means that you have to get pre-qualified with the lender. And in order to even be prepared for that, you just have to make sure that things are in order, so everyone is always working towards, getting their credit better. But unless you know where you stand, you don't even know how to, what to fix. So my recommendation is always, if you are thinking about purchasing, you want to at least start the conversation with a real estate professional, and then speak with a lender who can advise you and say, look, they have these things called credit analyzers, where they can take a look at your credit and say, okay, well, you're at a 570 right now, but if you do A, B, and C, you can be at a 620 in 120 days. So,
wow.
So there's certainly some tools that they have that can help prepare you to be prepared.
The magic of being your own boss means you get to negotiate with yourself on what steps you need to take to grow your business. The next time you're having this internal debate, remember that spending more time delighting your customers is one of the most powerful things you can do to move your business to the next level. The good news is our friends at FreshBooks can help you spend way less time on your admin and paperwork so you can spend more time giving your customers more love. FreshBooks makes cloud accounting software for self-employed professionals that's ridiculously easy to use. It's so fast and easy, it can save you up to 192 hours per year on all that tedious paperwork and the tasks like sending invoices, calculating expenses, and tracking your time. Oh, and if you're doing the math, 192 hours works out to 24 days. Imagine how much more joy you could bring to your customers with all that extra time. For your 30-day unrestricted free trial, I want you to go to freshbooks.com/mytaughtyou and enter My Taught You in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Okay, is there like a checklist, Brandi? Like, okay, if I'm going to a realtor, what do I need in my purse?
So for a consultation, there's not much that you need. So what I do with my clients, I always start by having a consultation because there's so many things that you need to know about the process. I can't just show up at a house and we just kind of say, oh, let's start looking. No, there's some things that you need to know to be prepared for. You need to be prepared for what to expect when we get out here looking at homes. We're in a seller's market and it's extremely competitive. So an average buyer in a seller's market is only going to look at anywhere between 5 to 7 homes before they purchase because there's not as much inventory. So that's something that you need to be advised on. And you need to, as far as making an offer and what that looks like in order for your offer to be considered, that there's a strategy that should be put in place. So those are things that a purchaser should always, as far as wanting to, a checklist, that's something to think about.
Okay. Are there some things that someone can do to make their home more attractive to sell? I think I've read like blue kitchens. I could be lying, but like, so are there tips and tricks that would make a home more attractive to sell? Things that buyers are maybe looking for if I am trying to sell my house?
So that's a great question. And the first thing that buyers are always impressed with are there are certain things that you can't change. So if or you may be able to change the layout of your home. People like open, layouts that flow. So, but if that's not tangible for you, but where you can start is the kitchen. Every buyer loves the kitchen. They want a nice kitchen. They want nice master bathroom where you're going to spend most of your time in your master bath and in your kitchen. So you want to make sure those two places appeal. And you want to make certain that it appeals to the masses and not just, what you like. So that's why I always have to advise my sellers when I meet with them for consultations, did you do this to your house for you to enjoy it, or were you thinking about resale? And that's important, because a lot of times what may appeal to you may not appeal to the 99% of people that will be looking at your home. So you want to make improvements that are going to appeal to the masses. And a great way to find that out, everyone loves HGTV, right? So everyone loves looking at these rehab, renovation shows where they renovate these kitchens and they look amazing. But, what's trending right now is white cabinetry and soft neutral tones. And, so those are things. So the things that are trending are the things that you would want to invest in.
Okay. And I don't know if this is a question for you, but someone was saying, do you have any advice on buying a house after a foreclosure?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So after you've had a foreclosure, most lenders are going to require, if you're looking to obtain a FHA loan, you have to wait at least 3 years. So if you foreclosed on your house in 2012, you would need to wait until 2015, whatever that date. Now, here's something I want to clarify, because if you, let's just say that the house foreclosed in January of 2012. Now, it's not 3 years from that date. It's 3 years from the date that the lender reported it to the credit bureaus. So that may be a few months after that. So it could be, if you foreclose in January, it might not report on your credit until, April of 2012. So it would be 3 years from that date for an FHA loan. And it's actually 7 years if you had a conventional loan.
Okay. Yep. So you got to wait a little bit.
Now, something else I want to point out is that a lot of people did short sales. You foreclosed, but you did a short sale. the time frames are a little different. So you have to wait 4 years for a conventional if you did a short sale, and then you have to do only 3 years for FHA. So it's a little different
Okay.
with a short sale.
Okay. And I think we've answered so many amazing questions, but what are some things? So we get past all of this. I buy my house. What are some things that I should invest in to get the best return? Like, I know we talked about this. I invested a lot, changed all the light fixtures in my house. My house is 4 stories, and I just focus mostly on the second floor because I was like, that's the floor that most people are coming in on.
Right.
So I switched out all the light fixtures because I never really liked the ones that come in a house.
Right.
I probably wasted money. I changed my kitchen backsplash because I liked it, but I felt like it didn't go with my vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what else I did. I did wallpaper. I did paint. But what are some things like that people can do to sort of get the best return on their house once they move in?
That's a great question. And I think the things that you've mentioned are important. So lighting, flooring is important.
Okay.
So if you have carpet in the family room, what people like to see are, hardwood. So that's very trendy now, hardwoods. So lighting, flooring, and something that I definitely want to mention is maintenance and upkeep. So a lot of times I'll meet with my sellers who have owned their homes for maybe, 5 to 7 years or longer, but value has been lost because there's a lot of deferred maintenance. So you want to make sure that you get your systems checked on a regular basis. Change your filters. A lot of things that can cost you money down the road if you just would have paid attention to that, like on a yearly basis, just to make sure you get your HVAC systems checked and make sure that a lot of wear and tear, things that weathering. You just want to be mindful of those types of things, because if you don't pay attention to that over time, it can end up costing you a lot when it's time for you to sell your house.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple of career questions for you, Brandi, because I'm pretty sure there are some people that maybe want to get into the field that you're in or to work alongside of you. How do you believe that you became the sort of celebrity go-to in this business?
You know what? That's also a good question. I kind of set my eyes. I got into real estate a different sort of way. I lost my husband in 2004, and I had 3 small children at the time. So I worked a pretty rigid sales job, 9 to 6, which it wouldn't have worked as a single parent.
With 3 boys.
With 3 boys. So I needed to find a career that would have allowed me just some more flexibility. If I needed to go pick up my kids early from school, or if I needed to take them to doctor's appointments, I could schedule my appointments around what was most important, which was my family. So that is really why I transitioned into the career of real estate. But I have to say this because you can find inspiration in anything. And what it was for me to really set my sights higher and become this, I don't like to coin myself the celebrity realtor, but because I work with everyone, but it just so happens that I've kind of created that niche. But there was an article in Essence. No, I'm sorry. It was Ebony Magazine. This was right after I got my license in 2005. And it was a young lady who was a realtor here in Atlanta. At the time I lived in Chicago, but I was in the grocery store standing in line, and I just happened to flip to that article. And the name of the article was Single Mom on the Move. And it was a young lady she had her arms folded, and she was standing in front of this high-end subdivision in Atlanta, Georgia. And I said, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I want to move to Atlanta, Georgia. I want to pack my babies up. I want to get out of Chicago because I knew I didn't want to raise them there. And I'm going to sell high-end real estate in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. And I just followed that. I followed that. So I prepared for that. And I went to UGA. So I had a lot of friends here. So when I got here, I just bugged the crap out of them. I let everyone that I know, so they had to know that I was in real estate. That's what I'm doing. I'm here. I'm selling real estate. So I hounded my family and friends. I had one referral, one person who I just impressed. I impressed her, the lights out of her, and she referred me about 15 people. I have to give her a shout out. Their name is Shanita Foster. But Shanita Foster referred me Candy Burris. And
Okay.
it was just like a snowball effect, you know? So it
Okay.
really just takes you impressing one person, but you have to be consistent across the board. You can't just, impress that one person, but not show that same attention and appreciation to the other client. Like, I just made it a point to be consistent, with my services and my
Mm-hmm.
follow up, and just making sure that I just wanted to provide customer service that people would appreciate,
Yeah, yeah, I know. I referred you to my videographer who had a different home budget, but I think his house, you put his house on the market, it was sold like that day.
Yeah,
He was like, it sold so fast, he didn't even have time to get out of it.
right, right. And I love them. Oh my God. And they found another
Yeah,
house.
they're
They're
amazing.
amazing. They are.
I love their house. Yeah, and I love their new house too. I've gone over for dinner. But something that I noticed about you, Brandi, is that you have like this insane. I met you, and before I knew it, you had followed up with me. You were having a meeting. What do you have any particular rules for following up with people? Because a lot of us, we'll meet people on panels and be like, "Yeah, girl, call me," and you never hear from that person. Do you have any like rules, days that you wait, email, call, any particular rules you have on following up with
Oh,
people?
it's immediately. Like, there's no wait.
Really?
If I have a
Okay.
connection with someone and they have expressed that, oh, I would like to buy a house. Oh no, you will get an email from me, if not that day, the next day. And if I don't hear from
Okay.
you, I'll follow back up with you within the next few days. And like, that is something that is so important, because that's my personality. Like, I respect
Okay.
I respect people or salespeople that follow up, because I'm so busy. Like, even if it's something I know that I
Mhm.
want to do, but I'm not necessarily making it a priority. If I have someone that's on my coattails about it, oh, it becomes a
Uh-huh.
priority. So I like that, because I need that type of service and follow up in my life. So I feel like people would appreciate that on the other end. And yeah, that's just, I've made it a practice to make certain that my follow up game is strong, because I believe that in the world where people have so many things going on, that's
Mhm.
important. That's important.
And you don't feel like you're bothering people when you do that, because a lot of people won't follow up because they're like, well, I emailed her, she didn't contact me back, and so I don't, the second time I don't want to be a bugaboo. Like, when do you just
I don't
quit?
quit until they tell me don't contact me. Yeah, I
Ooh.
don't. I don't quit until someone has told me, I don't want to hear from you. I don't stop following up. I have to give this example, because I have a client that I have been in communication with for, it's now going on the third year, for a high-end listing. And we will be listing, and hopefully we'll be listing within the next couple of months, because they appear to be ready now. But they have heard from
Okay.
me, if not on a monthly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. They'll either get a phone call, they'll get a thank you note, or just thinking of you. They'll get,
Mhm.
I send out literature to my, people in my sphere of influence, talking about the market. You're going to hear from me in
Yep.
some shape, form, or fashion. And I think that's how, I've become, or achieved the level of success I have, is because of that.
I love that, because that's one of my sort of tactics too, is that you can't ever be discouraged by the fact that somebody's not getting back to you or take it personally. It's like people, they've got other things going on. You may or may not be their priority, but you can gently nudge them until they
Yeah,
tell you to go away.
yeah,
It's like you're not harming anyone to continue to go after the things you want. And I feel like one of the things that's missing, I think, is like sales. I think we've somehow, like, everybody kind of learned how to sell in their first couple jobs, but now people don't really know how to
right.
sell anymore. And I think
Yeah,
everything is sales. Selling yourself, even if you're on Instagram, you've got to be selling
absolutely,
yourself.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't think
Yes.
people understand there's an art to that. And like you just
Hmm.
said, like, I don't take it personal. And here's how I choose not to take it personal. Like, I look at myself and how
Hmm.
busy I am. Just one, in my day to day, what I do for my job. But then even after my job, I have a husband, and a commitment to him, and a commitment to my children, who
Hmm.
are all over the place. Like, everybody is busy. Everybody's busy. So
Hmm.
I don't take it
I know.
personal, just for that reason. Like, they did
Right.
not, think to call me back. It's like, it's because they got busy.
Right. Right. And just not taking
Yeah,
it
yeah.
personal. Yeah, yeah. And so I'm familiar with your very insane work ethic. What are some things that you do, Brandi, to stay ahead of the pack? Like, are there things that you read, or do you go out and look at other homes? Like, what are some things that you do to stay ahead?
And that is so vitally important. I think education, I think, is critical. Like you have to
Okay.
stay sharp in this industry. There's always, just
Mm-hmm.
courses you can take to stay ahead of the curve. What's even more important, like in a world of social media, there's so many things that you can learn from other agents, from marketing
Okay.
ideas. Not that you steal anybody's anything, but you can certainly, uh, make
Mm-hmm.
something your own and say, oh, that's a neat
Right.
idea. How can I incorporate that into what I'm doing and put my own spin on it? So, just being
Right.
aware of what's going on around you, and reading, of course, I think is important. There are books that I read on leadership and just staying, and even sales, leadership and sales. If I read something, it's
Uh-huh.
always self-help. I feel like I don't have time to read like for leisure. It's just always about improving and getting better.
Getting
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah. And are there any particular sort of like work mantras that you live by? Like, like a never give up, or it's not done until it's done. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of challenges. You probably get into a lot
Yeah.
of snags along the way in sales, but is there anything that you
I
live
think that
by?
I heard this before, and it's just stuck with me as a business owner. Does
Mm-hmm.
your attention match your intention? As far as, yes.
Ooh.
Yes. So
I
we
gotta
can
write
get
that
out
down.
and say, this is what I want. This is what my goals are. These are the numbers that I want to hit, but is what you're doing on a daily basis, is that contributing? Is it, helping you reach what your true goals are? So yeah, that was a big wake up.
Yeah.
Like, I can say I want to do all these things, but what am I doing every single
Mm-hmm.
day? How am I committed, to reaching those goals? So that's a big one for me.
Okay, and this is my last question before I wrap it up. I really
Mhm.
appreciate you doing this with me. Is if I want to get into the real estate game, and let's just say I
Mhm.
want to work for you, Brandi, how do I do that? Like, what is someone like you looking for, if you were to have someone work alongside you to kind of like learn the
So of
ranks?
course you have to be licensed. And what I am finding, I got licensed over 10 years ago, and I don't know if this test is more difficult, but I'm finding that a lot of people
It's-
don't pass this test, and it takes several times to
oh,
to
gee.
get this to pass the real estate, to get their real estate license. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not as easy as it,
Hmm.
I guess they're either trying to filter out and make sure that they have the right people, and the right people in the industry. But it's not an easy test, and you just have to make sure you're prepared, and taking it serious when you do take on that task. But one, you definitely have to be a licensed
Okay.
agent. Now, at this moment, I'm not looking to take on any agents. I will be looking to hire an assistant,
Okay.
because my assistant will be moving into a different
Okay.
role. I haven't announced that yet, because
Okay.
she's actually going to be a licensed agent herself. So yeah, yep. So she's
Oh,
moving on to
nice.
bigger and better things. So yeah, that's great. That's what it's
Which is
about.
great. Yeah. Yeah. Assist me, and then
Yeah, exactly.
yep,
So
work your way up.
she's been my intern. I mean, she's learned from me for the last 2 years. So I'm excited about her. Yeah,
Okay.
going on.
Yes. So then you would take on another assistant who will learn a ton from working with you in the
Yes,
interim of them getting their license. So they don't
right.
have to
But
have it
but
to
no, but my
assist you.
next assistant, I would require them to be licensed. So yeah, I would require, because there's a lot of
Really?
things that you're
Okay.
limited, um, as a licensed assistant, that you can do. One, you can make more money, and then two, there are more things that you can do as a licensed
Okay.
assistant, as far as dealing with my clients, and opening lock boxes, and showing properties and things of that
Oh,
nature.
okay.
So it would, yeah, but this new assistant would definitely need to be licensed.
Got it. Well, Brandi, where can we find you? Website,
Okay, so
Instagram,
my
give it to us.
website is brandihunter.com. That's Brandi
Hmm.
with an I. And my Instagram
Hmm.
and Twitter and Facebook, everything is just B underscore luxurious. And that's
Ooh,
LUXURIOUS. So B_luxurious is my moniker for everything. So that's where you can find me.
perfect. That's where you can find Brandi. Thank
Thank you,
you
Malik.
so much.
I'm sorry. I know this podcast is about
Oh,
me, but I so love you. And I'm so proud of
yeah.
you with everything
Thank
that you're
you.
doing. So thank you
Thank
for having
you.
me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Of course.